From KGW News, this is Straight Talk with Laurel Porter.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Brittany Folkers in for Laurel Porter. 3,000 people in the Pacific Northwest are waiting for a life-saving transplant. And Donate Life Northwest has registered nearly 3 million Oregonians to be organ, eye, and tissue donors. It's easy to do in both Oregon and Washington, but still a lot of people haven't had that conversation about being an organ donor. Now, there's a powerful new documentary out called A Donation Conversation to inspire people to think about organ donation. It includes the story of a Forest Grove family, the Dieter Robinsons. You may remember their daughters, 6-year-old Anna and 11-year-old Abigail. They were killed when a car ran over them while they played in a pile of leaves in 2013. In this documentary, their parents talk about how their legacy lives on through organ donation. In this episode of Straight Talk, we're sitting down with the executive director of Donate Life Northwest, Jackie Wurz, and with Amy Edelman, a 2-time kidney transplant recipient and the executive producer of the documentary. And they share with us the importance of organ donation, the impact of having a donation conversation, and how to start one. Jackie is here in the studio with me, and Amy is traveling and joins us via Zoom. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here.
Well, Amy, I really want to start with you because you yourself are a 2-time donor recipient. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how much of a difference this has made in your life.
Yeah, so I received 2 kidney transplants, one from my dad being a living donor, and then my second most recent transplant was from a deceased donor. And I wouldn't be here today without my donors. So it's impacted my life by saving my life. I've been able to do amazing things. I just graduated from graduate school. I made this documentary, and it's because of my donors that I'm here today.
And now Amy is a great example of the incredible impact that organ donation, of course, makes. And there are a lot of people out there waiting for that life-changing organ donation. So, Jackie, let's talk about really the reach and how many people are we talking about here in our region?
In our region, we have 3,000 people that are currently waiting for an organ, eye, or tissue donation. And when you think about it, 106,000 people across the country are waiting. That's like filling Autzen, Reeser, and the Moda Center, all people waiting for that life-changing phone call.
And when we talk about organ donation and donation overall, it isn't just organ donation. So tell us about the different levels of tissue donation, corneas, things like that.
Well, there are 2 different major categories of donation, the first of which is living donation. And many of us have already been living donors if you've given blood or bone marrow. In addition to that, while you're alive, you can also donate a portion of your liver, a portion of your lung or your intestines, or a kidney. In addition to that, upon death, you can donate 8 separate organs, giving the opportunity to save 8 lives directly through heart, lung, liver, pancreas, intestines. And this is an incredible opportunity in and of itself. But when we add in tissue and eye donation, you can impact up to 125 additional lives.
Wow. I mean, the reach is really impactful, and the impact on the community can go so much further. So, Jackie, this living and deceased donation, you know, making sure that this works, why is this so important to just spread the word about this?
Because when we are in moments of crisis, that is not the time to be making these big decisions. We need to have these conversations with our friends and families now, when we're thinking about issues, about our health, our community, our impact, and the legacy that we want to make. So having these conversations early on will make the whole process much more impactful and really bring awareness to the community.
And that's really the mission of this documentary. Amy, you are the executive producer of this documentary titled A Donation Conversation. So how important, just like Jackie said, is it to start this conversation, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's incredibly important to have those conversations with your family and with your friends, and making sure that you understand what your loved one's decision is and they understand your own. This film really showcases all the different conversations that can happen. One of them is registering to be a donor and having those conversations before you get to the DMV, but there's so many other conversations that you see throughout this film. the conversation that happens between the organ procurement organizations and the families when they're making those decisions, such as Jackie said, in a very crisis situation, that can be very difficult. And so if you're having those conversations before you're in those situations, it makes it much easier to make those decisions and to honor the decision that your loved one has made.
And this documentary, Amy, I have to say, really does a wonderful job of illustrating the impact and the importance. But how do we start that conversation?
You know, I think it's an easy conversation to have with family when it's early on, right? So when you are having conversations with, you know, let's say a young individual who maybe is getting their permit or their license, having those conversations before you go to the DMV so that they can ask questions and then so that they can understand. It's also really important. Donate Life Northwest goes out into the schools and educates youth about you know, what donation is. And so if you have a better understanding of what donation and transplant is, it's much easier to make those decisions. So it's really about being informed as well.
And listen, Jackie, we know these conversations can be tough to start with family members, especially our younger family members. Yeah. But how is this so important in the long run and to prevent confusion in case of an emergency and a tragedy?
Yeah, having these conversations ahead of time is a way of letting your best wishes and intents known. And if you're choosing to give that gift of life, sight, and health, having your family on board is supporting you, but in the long run, that conversation supports your family. So they are aware of the decision. They know what steps you want to take. And this is also a discussion about living donation. So there are ways that we can donate to life, sight, and health for others while we are going around our normal days.
That's so important. And now, Amy, in this documentary, there are two local families featured. One of them that we have featured here on KGW, and I've had the honor of talking with their parents, Anna and Abigail Dieter Robinson. They were killed in 2013 when they were run over while they were playing in a pile of leaves. Their parents are featured in your documentary. So tell us about their story and how it really relates to organ donation.
Yeah, all the stories in our documentary are local stories. And so the Dieter Robinsons are a donor family. They were faced with those decisions, and they talk about how making that decision was really about choosing the joy and knowing that they lost their loved one, but also knowing that they were able to save many other lives through Abigail's donations. And so it really is a phenomenal story, and also just showing the impact that you can make to your community. They've done so much for their community and really bringing awareness to organ, eye, and tissue donation on a different level. And the Forest Grove community has really, you know, rallied around them and created this amazing opportunity to share their story through organ, eye, and tissue donation. And they're amazing advocates now. And really, they've had conversations with other donor families after. So they provided support for the community as well as providing that level of education that's so important.
And you mentioned it right there, that community support, that continuation, and that's what we see so much with the organ donation and transplant community. What is that really significance, importance, in honoring that legacy through community after an experience like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think our community, a lot of people say it's, you know, no one wants to be a part of it, but we're happy that we are because we have that support. It's a very unique situation that not very many people have the ability or an opportunity to be a part of, both on the recipient side and the donor family side. You know, less than 1% of the population actually ever becomes an organ donor. And so we are a unique community, but we are strong because we've all had this experience and we've had some level of tragedy or experience or came close to death. And so it's a unique opportunity that brings us together in a very unusual way, but it's really important, and it's a great way for us to come together. No one else understands unless you've been through this experience.
Yeah. And something, you know, is so important here that we talked about in the documentary is that it takes us through a lot of different areas of organ donation, like you mentioned, from the families that are involved, from those who are recipients, and also those who are on the ground. Why did you, Amy, think it was so important to include those people who are having conversations with family members who are there in the emergency room?
Yeah, so I think it's really important for people to understand the people that are doing the work behind the scenes. An organ doesn't just appear, right? And the transplant doesn't just happen. There are many people working behind the scenes, supporting those donor families, supporting the recipients. And so I think it's really important that people understand the entirety of the process and the intricacies and how complicated the process is, so that when you're making that decision, you truly understand the decision that you're making and the impact that it can have on hundreds of lives.
And Jackie, for you, when you saw this documentary, what was your reaction?
So I was really struck by the story of Dash, who is waiting for a kidney transplant. And to date, he's still on the wait list. And every day he has to suffer through feeling sick and feeling ill and not being able to do the things that he loves most. At the time of the documentary, he had to increase the number of days that he was in dialysis, limiting his ability to go camping, which was what his joy was. So imagine feeling the worst that you've ever felt and knowing that that is as good as it's going to get until someone gives you that gift. And that was what really drove it home to me, is that there are real people that are waiting patiently and hopefully for this opportunity at a better life.
And is that what you're hoping people take away when they see this, is the ability to make that impact, whether through living, donation, or afterlife?
Yes, I want people to see the totality of the donation life cycle. There are recipients, there's donor families, there's the professionals involved, and together this community makes a difference. And that is something that inspires me every day.
Wow. Well, all right, we're going to take a break here. Jackie, I know you're really focused on this, so we're going to have more on this when we come back after the break. Welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking about the importance of having a conversation about organ donation. Welcome to my guests, the Executive Director of Donate Life Northwest, Jackie Wurz, and Amy Edelman, a two-time kidney transplant recipient, and the executive producer of the documentary A Donation Conversation. Thank you, ladies, again for being with us. Amy, you are a very active member of the organ donation community, and you are also an athlete. You're taking part in the multi-sport Transplant Games in August. Tell us a little bit about what this exciting event is all about.
Yeah, so the Transplant Games of America is an Olympic-style event for transplant recipients, living donors, and donor families. It's a great way for our community to come together and to compete. You know, a lot of people think because you have a chronic disease or you have transplant that you can't do things, and we like to show people that we can do just as much, if not more, and have a lot of fun doing it.
And Jackie, I love to see you shaking your head too. Is it just so fun to see these types of events in the community come together?
Oh, it is fabulous. The lease on life that people have gives them this real vibrancy, and watching these athletes perform is nothing short of miraculous.
Amy, what are you really getting out of this when you're out there having so much fun, getting active, and just being around people that you have shared interests and similarities with?
Yeah, this is actually my first event. And so I haven't been before, but I've heard amazing things. And Jackie's totally right. Like, there is just this sense of community and just so much excitement and so much fun competing with each other and coming together of, you know, the most transplant recipients in our community. And people come from all the nation. We're Team Northwest, so we're Alaska, Oregon, and Washington. But people come from all over the country, and it's just a really cool and fun event. I'm excited to see people that I haven't seen in a long time.
And you're actually the co-captain of Oregon's team of 80 people. So tell us about this year's team.
Yeah, so we have quite a big team this year. Again, it's Alaska, Oregon, and Washington. And we have swimmers and runners, and that's the softball throw that you're seeing. We have a basketball team, a volleyball team. We have people as young as 17 coming. We have a recipient who is celebrating her 25 years of having her transplant. So it's a really cool event and a great way for our community to come together.
And now, Jackie, I want to turn to you a little bit because you are new to your role as Executive Director of Donate Life Northwest. Just tell us a little bit about what brought you here.
Yeah, well, I am a nerd. I have a PhD in biochemistry, which is a fancy way of saying I didn't have a date to prom, but it really means that I have an interest in molecules. And so what really drew me into Donate Life Northwest was the fact that transplantation is fundamentally an equitable event. We're looking at blood types and molecular markers and making that match to make that gift of life possible. Now, wrapped up in that issue are these larger, super complex issues about systemic racism and how it impacts health equity and health outcomes. So the transplantation itself is something that has that molecular equity into it, but then the larger issues that are part of the conversation are ones that I really wanted to get into. So for example, of the 106,000 people on that waiting list, 25% of Americans are underrepresented minorities, but 60% of people on that waiting list are underrepresented minorities.
Wow. So it even exemplifies the inequities that we already have in our healthcare system.
Exactly. And when we're looking at that transplantation list, kidneys are the #1 most needed organ. 85% of people on that list are waiting for a kidney. When it comes to kidney end-stage renal disease, Black Americans are 4 times more likely, and Hispanic Americans are 1.4 times more likely to suffer from that disease and require a transplant compared to white Americans.
Wow. And organ donation, this is why we need more and more people. And it's the, like you said, molecular level.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
And one of the great things is that anybody can be a donor. There's going to be somebody out there with a blood type and a tissue type that is going to be a match, and we can help save lives.
So how do we register? How do we get going on this adventure?
We make it as easy as possible. There are multiple avenues to register, the most common of which is through the DMV. So when you're going in to get your ID card or your license, you can volunteer to be a registrar at that moment in time. Additionally, you can register through our website, donatelifenw.com, and click register to become a donor. And you can also donate on an iPhone using the iHelp Health app and sign up there.
Wow, so many ways to make it really easy and accessible. And what about resources so that people can start that conversation about donation?
Well, the first resource that I really am excited to send people to is the documentary, A Donation Conversation. So if you go to donationconversation.com, you can sign up to hear more about when the documentary is going to be screened next. You can sign up to have a screening of the documentary, and that's a wonderful way to learn more. Other ways that I would send people to learn more is to follow our social media. We have a robust social media program that includes information, resources, links, and it's all accessible on your phone via Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And of course, Donate Life Northwest ourselves, our jobs are to be educators, advocators, and to do outreach. So all you need to do is pop by our website, give us a phone call, and we will go to you and your community and do community fairs, do faith outreach. We are just excited to help facilitate this conversation.
And part of that, you know, it's even just reaching out to people in your community, in your life, and just talking about it, right? That's the main message here.
Yes, have a conversation. And it is always something that we can provide tools, education, and resources to make it as easy as possible.
And Amy, I want to turn to you too, because, you know, Jackie mentioned we really want this documentary to be seen by as many people as possible. Why do you want organizations and just different groups to get involved and watch this?
Yeah, so I think, you know, like Jackie said, many people go to the DMV and they check that box, which is amazing. But a lot of people don't necessarily understand how the donation process works. And so this hopefully helps you get a little bit more glimpse behind the scenes and helps you understand what the process really is so that you can make that informed decision. And anyone can request a screening just going to donationconversation.com. And there are resources there as well, a conversation guide, as well as more information about the people who are in the film.
And I also want to kind of get back to something we were talking about a little bit earlier about that community connection and how important this is for people who are going through the journey, who are on the transplant list, those who are family members of someone who's donated an organ. How important do you think, again, Amy, this is to have that connection and keep that going?
Yeah, Yeah, so, the more you talk about this, the more you hear about people in your community that are connected to either donation or transplant. And that's what brings people to our organization and to making that decision, is the connection that they have. And these are beautiful stories that illustrate the impact of donation and transplant, and having people like me, connecting to other recipients or other donor families. I've never met my donor family, but I've met many other donor families, and we have a very unique connection that we bring together, and that forms this amazing friendship and lifelong connection that we have. And so it really means a lot to the community to meet other people who have been through this. And hopefully this documentary and other resources will help people have a better understanding of what it is.
And Jackie, Donate Life Northwest has lots of different events, from quilting events to different, like we said, the games. So what other events do you want people to know about that are happening in our community?
Well, we have our annual Dash for Donate Life Northwest, which is a family-friendly educational walk on Mount Tabor. That just happened last month, and it was so exciting to bring people back together, especially after 2 years of absence from the pandemic. We also have Derby Night, where we do fun Derby Night races, including ridiculous outfits and hats, because that's a prerequisite.
Yes.
In order to raise awareness and funds for Donate Life Northwest. And then we also have our Lifesavers event. Now, this has typically been a breakfast in the past, but I'm going to do a little teaser here. We're switching it up, and we're going to be partnering with a local organization to do an amazing, amazing event. I can't say anything more right now, but keep your eyes peeled on our social media, and we'll announce it as soon as possible.
All right, well, stay tuned for that, definitely. And I guess I just want to leave it up to you two to give us some final thoughts on just the importance of organ donation, and especially the focus of today, starting that conversation. Amy, I want to start with you.
Yeah, I would encourage people to have those conversations. It can be difficult for some, but it's really important to talk about it now, and to understand what your decision is, and to understand what your family's decision is, so that you can hopefully make and help make that possible for that individual if they do want to be a donor. And again, I'll just put a plug for the documentary. It's at donationconversation.com, and that's a great way to start that conversation after seeing the film and having a better understanding. I wouldn't be here today without my donation, and it meant the world to me to be able to take part in this film and be able to produce it to the public, so that hopefully many more can register and many more can understand what the process truly is.
It's such a powerful message. And Amy, it's so important that you share your journey. So I so thank you for doing that. Now, Jackie, how about you? Anything that you really want our viewers to know or understand or take away from this conversation?
I want our viewers to really think about that conversation. And by having that conversation, we are engaging not only your family, but you're engaging your community. And ultimately, donation is something that helps the health and well-being of our entire community. In the state of Oregon, since records have been kept, there's been nearly 10,000 recipients of organs here in Oregon. That is a legion, and each one of those people is a father, a mother, a daughter, a niece, a friend. That is the impact that it's making in our community by giving the gift of life.
And before we go, one more time, those resources that are out there, if people are interested in donating, learning more about becoming a donor, or if they're on the transplant list as well.
Yes, please head to our website, www.donatelifenw.com, or give us a call at 503-494-7888, and we will direct your call and hook you up with all the resources and even swag. We have these adorable plush little kidneys that we can help support you as you explore, discover, learn, and share, and make your decisions.
And that is something that is so important with the Dieter Robinson family that is featured in this documentary. They talk about choosing joy. After a really tragic loss, they are really continuing to live that joy, live the legacy of their two girls, Anna and Abigail. And this documentary is one that I highly suggest that you see. So ladies, thank you so very much for your time today and sharing your mission.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks to my guests, and thank you for watching. Join us next week. Laurel talks to some of the leading candidates in Southwest Washington's 3rd Congressional District race. The primary is coming up on August 2nd. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk.